Hello everybody. If we haven't met before, my name is Rebecca Fensom and I am the Student Wellbeing Advisor here in the Student Wellbeing team at Downing College. And I'm sharing with you just a really short workshop called Self-Care for Study Success. When we are in this term, I think it is a really good point of the year and point of the academic year to really look at the ways in which we are looking after ourselves, putting ourselves in the best physical and mental position to achieve that study success. Because when we come into the next term, into the Easter term, it's often time where we have deadlines or where we have exams and the stress and the pressure is on. So this point of year is really good to fill up our metaphorical tank, if you see what I mean, and really put in those self-care practices that really look after us. So what I wanted to do in this short session is just to make the case for self-care, really, to remind you of why it is so important and to give you a framework to start planning and practicing your own self-care to make sure that you are physically and mentally as well as you can be when we come to that more stressful Easter term. So what I'd just like to invite you to do, just to begin with, just to take a very short moment of pause. Sometimes when we come to do these things, our body is here, but our mind is elsewhere. So I'm just going to invite you just to sit with both feet planted on the ground. You might like to just close your eyes or maybe just lower your gaze just to remove some of that visual stimuli. And then take a really deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Take a deep breath in and out. One more deep breath in and out. And then just see if you can notice where your feet are resting, that point of contact against the ground. The steadiness and unmoving nature of the earth below. Notice that point of contact where your back is resting. Take a moment to bring the shoulders away from the ears to loosen the jaw. And just feel that flow of your breath. Then you might want to just stretch your arms out wide, maybe roll the shoulders, wake the body up from this little pause. Hopefully that has helped you to arrive in this present moment, being ready and focused for this short workshop. So just as we go through, apologies if you can hear any background noise. I'm recording this in the Student Wellbeing Centre and sometimes we can hear the sounds of the college around us. So apologies in advance if it's very distracting at any point. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about here, what am I talking about when I'm saying self-care? So we're talking about these things that we can do that help us to rest, that help us to relax, that help us to heal, these things that help us to be creative. So I'm using really here the concepts in the autonomic nervous system, that we have. So we have our sympathetic side of the nervous system, which is where we are alert to things. It's that place where we do, where we act, those things that we do where we can respond to stimuli around us. So the body is on alert all of the time. And what can so often happen in our lifestyles, especially studying here at Cambridge, we can get a little bit stuck in that system. And it's really important that we have that, that we have that get up and go. But just like with anything in life, it's about balance. So we do need times and opportunities when we can come into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where we can heal, where we can digest, where we can relax, we can be creative. So it's important that we have a balance. So self-care practices, I think, are those ones that help us come into that parasympathetic state. And the reason why it is so important is if we're on the go all of the time, we get burnt out. We get tired, we get run down, we get, physically and mentally unwell. Anxiety and stress, can start to rise, and that can really influence how we feel physically, as well. We can start to have less energy. We can really struggle to focus. We can physically become quite unwell. So it's really important that we do things in our lifestyle that help us come into that parasympathetic nervous system, that help us to rest and restore and reboost our energy, so then we can go on and do all the things that we want to do. So the reason why that's so important, I think, for you as students here at Cambridge is it's going to put you in the best position to be able to succeed academically. If you feel good in yourself, then you are so much more able to focus and put your energy on your studies. If you feel physically well, you have more energy, to be able to dedicate, to that study that you are doing. If you are trying to manage kind of physical illness, if you are trying to manage kind of stress, feelings of anxiety and overwhelm, it has an impact on how you can do academically. And there's a lot of research and a lot of studies out there which shows that students that have prioritized their well-being, who feel good in themselves physically and mentally, tend to do a lot better academically. So it's really just about giving yourself all of the tools that you need to really look after yourself, to be able to do the best that you can do. And it's something that we often see here in the Wellbeing Centre, kind of common mistakes that students make is to really neglect that self-care, because there is that tendency or that intention to think, right, well, if I want to do really well, I have to study 30 hours in a 24-hour period, which doesn't even exist, but people say, I'm in the library from 6 a.m. in the morning till 2 a.m. in the morning. I have 4 hours sleep, I'm not eating. And you just like, well, that's not going to be able to last for very long. You're going to get exhausted, you're going to get worn out. And then, we see students, they're not doing so well academically because they haven't been looking after themselves. And it may feel really counterintuitive to do these things, to take that break, to be able to have that point of relaxing, because there is that tendency to think, if I want to do well, I have to maximize my study time. But again, you're not going to retain loads of information if you're exhausted, if you're hungry, if you're stressed, if you are feeling really low, if your mind can't focus, because you're so anxious. So again, it's just really understanding that balance that we need to have. You have your study time, but your rest time is just as important as that study time. So I guess I wanted to give you a bit of ownership and a bit of a chance to check in and see, at this point in time, how are you doing? How are you feeling in yourself? Are you feeling kind of ready and you are, energized and looking forward to taking on the rest of the academic year? Or are there some areas that you are struggling with? Are you struggling, with tiredness? Are you struggling with overthinking? Is imposter syndrome, coming in? Just take a few moments now, just to pause the video and just ask yourself that question. Sometimes it can be helpful to write down your answer, but just a moment to check in. How are you doing? Are there any issues that are worrying you or bothering you? Okay. And then when you've done that, just a second question, what are you doing at the moment to look after yourself? What are you doing to make sure that you eat well and eat enough? What are you doing to make sure that you sleep well, and sleep enough? What are you doing to make sure that you're physically, well? What are you doing to help you be mentally well, to help you feel happy and feel relaxed? What are the things that you are doing? Because sometimes we forget that if we want to feel happy and well, these are not things that just happen automatically or happen by magic. We need to put in some effort. We need to put in some action to achieve those things. Like anything in life, you can't expect to achieve something if you don't put in something to help you do that. So again, just take a moment to pause the video and just make a little list of all the things you do on a day-to-day basis or weekly or monthly that just help you to feel happy, help you to feel well. Okay. So once you've done that, I'm going to talk a little bit now about things that you might like to put in place to help you plan out your self-care and make sure that you do those things that are going to help you feel physically and mentally well. So I've picked up 4 areas of well-being here, 4 areas that can really contribute to good physical and mental health. So we've got the things that we can physically do that will help us feel good. We've got the relational things, because we are tribal creatures, at our heart. We need those connections with people, those good relationships. They really support us in so many ways. We've got our emotional health, so how do we feel emotionally? Are we able to cope with those stresses and strains that come, or do they really wobble us? And then things around connection, so by that I mean in terms of like the bigger picture, do you feel a connection to a higher purpose, for example, or a connection to the natural world, a connection to that little inner voice, that intuition, that you have within you. And that's an area that we can very easily neglect, but really contributes to how we feel in ourselves as a person, how grounded, how steady we can feel. So when we're talking about the things that we need to do in order to help us feel good, it's quite useful to have a framework, and looking at these different 4 areas of well-being can be really helpful framework to think about what it is that we need to do. What do we need to plan to help us to feel good? So I want you to, again, just to have a little think on yourself, maybe rate on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, how well that you look after yourself in each of these areas. So how well are you looking after yourself physically? How well are you looking after yourself relationally, emotionally, and that connection? Is it something that is on your radar? And if you do specific things in each of those categories, write them down. So again, take a moment just to pause the video and to write down how well you are looking after yourself in each of those areas and any activities, any actions that you do. Okay. So you might be thinking, I don't know what to do. What does she mean? What's she going on about? So I wanted to give you some little bits of inspiration, things that you can maybe put into your day-to-day or your weekly schedule that is going to help you to look after yourself. So, physically, sometimes this is something that's a little bit more straightforward and obvious that we can really plan in and do. So in terms of physically, making sure that you look after yourself, eating a really well-balanced, nutritious diet is going to be really helpful. But when you're short on time or there's lots of demands on you, it can just be easy to reach for those kind of sugary snacks or that convenience food. So doing some meal planning can almost take out that mental strain of what it is to eat. So thinking, okay, if I'm going to eat 3 meals a day, what can I plan to help make that as easy as possible? Do I need to do some batch cooking? Do I need to, go to the shops so we can get all my ingredients? Am I going to go to Hall once a day, to make sure I have one kind of really good solid meal? So really take some time to kind of plan out, what it is that you're going to do to give yourself that nutrition. And then kind of more physical activities you can do to help your overall physical health, maybe planning in a morning run a couple of times a week, maybe doing some yoga before bed, maybe reducing your sugar, that you are intaking if you feel like that's too much at the moment. And a really, really important one is your sleep. Really thinking about, are you getting enough sleep, and is it good quality sleep? Sometimes, again, a very common mistake that students make is that they study right up until they want to go to sleep and then want to go to sleep straight away. You need to allow a little bit of wind down time between doing a really intense activity and being able to go to sleep. You need to allow the brain and the body to come into that sleep state. So really important to think about how you are maximizing your opportunities for really good sleep. Having set kind of sleep times and wake times are really helpful. Not planning anything too intense just before you go to sleep. Making sure that when you wake up, you get daylight in your eyes as soon as you possibly can. All of these things, really help your physical health. And then thinking about the emotional things that can really help you stay kind of mentally balanced. So a regular mindfulness practice is so beneficial. I know I'm a mindfulness teacher, so you may think I'm biased, but the research and the studies really back it up. It really is so beneficial. Thinking about you, what helps you relax? What helps you just to unwind? Thinking of those things that really are useful for you. Maybe bringing in a journaling practice. It can be really useful at the end of the day to journal all those things that are buzzing around in your mind, just to get them out on the page. And if you feel like you need some wellbeing support, seeking out and arranging that. We have the University Counselling Service, we have central, wellbeing services, and we have the wellbeing team here that I'm part of in Downing. So if you feel like you need that space to look at the emotions that you're experiencing, maybe learn some techniques to help you manage that, or just have a space that you can talk in confidence, and not be judged, then that's what we're here for. The relational things, are spending time with people who make you feel good. Especially when we come to Easter term and exams, there sometimes becomes this bit of a strange competition thing between some students in terms of who has done the most revision. If that is not helpful for you, you don't have to engage with those people. It's all right to put in those boundaries, and to be with people who are going to boost your confidence, who are going to make you feel good, rather than those people who make you doubt yourselves. And again, when we get really busy, that time with friends is often that thing that we can cut out quickly. But, maybe having just like a 30-minute coffee catch up with a friend, once a week, or maybe a phone call with a friend from back home, once a week, just to make sure you keep that relational space that's so good for our well-being. And then in terms of, things to help you with that connection, spending time outdoors, it's free, it's easy. We live in a beautiful part of the city where there's so much nature around us. It's really easy to be able to spend that time outdoors. Even if you're studying outdoors, it can be really helpful. Doing things that are creative. Creativity is really beneficial for us in terms of the way our brain works. It uses a different part of the brain, but it also helps with problem solving, with kind of thinking outside of the box, with, being able to see things in different ways, which is really good, in terms of whatever subject you are studying. Listening to podcasts, listening to inspiring ideas can be really helpful. And then here's a really controversial one: non-academic reads. Read something that's just for joy, for fun, or read like a poetry book, like one poem a day, just something that helps you connect with that inner voice. It really doesn't have to take up a lot of your time, 5 minutes a day, but it's going to have huge benefits. It really is, for how you feel in yourself. So what my suggestion is, if you want to start putting in some of these self-care practices, which I really hope I've made the case of why you should be doing that, then it really is going to help you so much more if you plan what you are going to do. And my suggestion would be to plan it at this point of the year. Trying to put something in place when you're very busy and feeling very stressed is a lot more difficult. If you can do it at a point in the year where you've got a bit of mental space to be able to think about it, and also where you're practicing at it, then when it comes to that time when you're under a lot of stress, it doesn't become something else you have to think about. It becomes more the routine and the habit. So I've just put in a couple of studies which show how it really does help, so being specific in you want to do, not, just to go, oh, I want to be physically better. Well, how are you going to physically help yourself? What are the things what actions are you going to do that make sure that you physically stay well? Being really specific about it. And then the WOOP method is really helpful for so many people. It's where a planning technique to help you do it. So your wish, what is it that you want to achieve? How are you going to feel, when you get to that? So say if you want to feel a lot less stress, when you feel a lot of stress, you are able to enjoy things more, you're able to focus a lot more, you're able to feel more positive and optimistic. The obstacles to that might be that you get a lot of work, at one period of time, or you start to feel very worried about upcoming exams, and then plan, okay, well, what can I do that's going to help me manage that stress? Maybe I'm going to do a 5-minute mindfulness practice a day. Maybe I'm going to arrange a study session, with a friend who makes me feel confident, about myself. So again, using these frameworks to plan your self-care can be really helpful. It just increases your chance of doing it, and it being successful. And then once you make that plan, it's really just the dedication to stick to it, and it's such a boring thing, but practice really does make perfect. If we want to put in changes, we need to continually do it, to have that level of success that we want to achieve. So what I'm going to do in the comment section of this video, I'm going to put a little journaling sheet that you can use that will help you to plan out your self-care ideas, the activities that you're going to be doing. If you are at this point and you're like, well, I just don't know what I can fit in, I don't know how I'm going to balance this with all the demands on my time, and my mind that I've got, how on earth can I do this? So my suggestion to you, as a Downing student, come and make use of us here at the Wellbeing team. This is what we are skilled at trained at supporting people to look after themselves. So if you're really struggling to put in that self-care, or you're not quite sure where to start, or you've tried and it's not going particularly well, come and have a chat with us, and we will be very happy to sit down and talk you through how we can maximise that for you. Okay. So I hope that is helpful. Just a 25-minute workshop for you, just to help you really understand the importance of self-care, why it is so valuable, and some ideas that you can put in place to really support your physical and mental well-being. And again, this is something that I think is a really important message for us, is to know that ownership we can have over our own physical and mental well-being. It's not just always about turning to professionals. There are things that we can do ourselves that really maximise our chance for success, maximise our opportunities to be physically and mentally well. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, or if you want to arrange an appointment to come and have a chat with us, then look in the details below, and we'd be more than happy to support you as a Downing student. All right, thank you very much.